Holodomor. The Holodomor genocide was a series of events and policies enforced by the USSR under Joseph Stalin and his accomplice Koiser. These included suppressing Ukrainians' independence, forcing the collectivization of agriculture, and eliminating Ukrainian culture and educated elites. After World War I and the collapse of the Russian monarchy in February 1917, Ukraine declared itself independent Ukrainian People's Republic in January 1918. However, it lost its fight for independence, leading to most of Ukraine's territory being forcibly assimilated into the Soviet Union as the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic by 1922. The Soviet Union initially implemented processes and policies to gain support within Ukraine, such as the New Economic Policy, the NEP, in 1921, and Ukrainization in 1923. However, by the end of the 1920s, Joseph Stalin had consolidated power over the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. He felt threatened by Ukraine's increasing cultural freedom and took steps to sabotage the Ukrainian peasantry and educated elites to prevent them from independence. Stalin passed the first five-year plan, which included the collectivization of agriculture, ending the NEP, and giving the Soviet Union direct control over Ukraine's agricultural resources. Koiser, the General Secretary of the Communist Party of Ukraine, acted on Stalin's instructions, arranging for the adoption of laws that increased control over grain confiscation and denied aid to Ukraine's collective farms. Rural Ukrainians resisted collectivization but were forced to surrender their land, livestock, and tools to work on farms called kolhovs. The secret police and militia targeted wealthy farmers who opposed collectivization, known as kulaks, through dekulakization, which further strained the grain supply and made it harder to meet the annual quota. Over 500,000 farmers and their families were executed, exiled to Siberia, or sent to gulag camps.
The famine in Ukraine began in late 1931 when Soviet leaders justified the establishment of the state and collective farms in the Soviet Union as essential for building socialism. Soviet officials considered collectivization more reliable than individual farms for surplus grain production, which was used to feed the growing urban population and finance industrialization. The top Soviet Ukrainian government leaders informed the Kremlin of starvation and requested aid in a reduction in the grain quota. Instead of a solution, the Soviet leader Stalin called for intensified grain collection efforts, fearing that the opposition to his policies could intensify and cause Ukraine to separate from the Soviet Union. Special teams were sent to collect more grain, even though farmers had little stored for winter and spring months. Additionally, nutritional benefits were confiscated by search squads by the time winter came, due to the fear that continued to control Stalin's leadership.
It is key to remember that the Holodomor was not a one-man job. It was caused by powerful leaders in the Soviet government, each playing a key role in carrying out harmful policies that led to the starvation of millions. Stalin, the leader of the Soviet Union, created the plan for forced collectivization, which took control of farms away from individual farmers. He set impossibly high grain quotas in order grain to be taken away from Ukrainian peasants, leaving them with nothing to eat. Stalin used famine as a weapon to destroy Ukrainian resistance and weaken their national identity. Koiser, the head of the Communist Party of Ukraine and a strong supporter of Stalin, made sure these orders were followed in Ukraine. He helped take food from the people and used fear, violence, and arrests to silence anyone who spoke out or fought back. Koiser also worked to erase Ukrainian culture by pushing Soviet beliefs and punishing those who supported Ukrainian independence. Pashev was dispatched by Stalin to Ukraine in late 1932 to take control of the Ukrainian Communist Party and reinforce Stalin's policies. He carried out massive political purges, removing thousands of Ukrainian officials accused of nationalist deviation, and replaced them with loyal Stalinists. Pashev intensified the terror by using the secret police to punish entire villages that failed to meet grain quotas and oversaw the closure of Ukrainian cultural institutions, further erasing Ukrainian identity. Molotov, a senior Soviet official and chairman of the Council of People's Commissars, was deeply involved in the coordination and enforcement of collectivization and grain requisition policies. He personally traveled to Ukraine to supervise the confiscation of food and signed multiple directives that legalized the seizure of grain and other foodstuffs, even from households with nothing left. Molotov worked closely with Stalin to ensure compliance and ruthlessly cracked down on any regions that fell short of the quotas, directly contributing to the famine's lethality.
During the Holodomor, the Soviet government imposed high grain quotas and forced Ukrainian farmers to surrender their harvest, leaving many families with insufficient food. The law of 5 years of grain was introduced, criminalizing even the smallest amount of grain in one's possession, leading to severe punishment such as imprisonment or execution. Special units were sent to rural areas to enforce grain confiscation, conducting searches of homes and confiscating not only grain but also other essential food supplies. The Soviet government also implemented measures that restricted movement within the country, sealing Ukraine's borders in January 1933. The Molotov team was sent to ensure grain procurement quotas were met by preventing smuggling along the borders. Internal passports made it nearly impossible for individuals to travel or obtain train tickets without official permission, targeting Ukrainians. Villages were blacklisted through Stalin's emissaries, most notably Kaganovich, as another inhumane way for the Soviet government to force people to follow grain quotas and stop any resistance. When a village didn't meet the grain goals, Kaganovich put it on the blackboard, causing total isolation and hardship. Troops surrounded these villages and residents couldn't leave or get any supplies. Shops were emptied of goods, trade was banned, and local leaders were removed if they were seen as a threat. Pachev was sent to Ukraine in January 1933 with thousands of Russian party cadres to eliminate resistance to Stalin's rule with the Communist Party of Ukraine, also known as Bolsheviks. Pachev oversaw the Russification of the party, cultural and educational institutions, and became responsible for the eradication of over 100,000 members of the Communist Party of Ukraine.
The Holodomor famine, which ended in 1933, resulted in the death of millions of Ukrainians, with estimates ranging from 3.9 million to 13% of the total population. Soviet police archives from the Holodomor reveal horrific conditions, including suffering, theft, lynching, and cannibalism. To escape starvation, people ate anything edible, including grass, acorns, cats, dogs, and corpses. The famine was connected to a broader assault on Ukrainian identity, targeting political establishment, intelligentsia, and cultural and religious leaders. The official Ukrainization policy was stopped, and those associated with the former Ukrainian People's Republic faced retaliation. The Soviet government intentionally silenced news of the famine, denying it and refusing any outside alleviation efforts. The series of Soviet governments maintained a formal denial of the Holodomor, making it impossible to speak publicly or discuss it in Ukraine until the late 1980s.
The Holodomor famine in Ukraine left lasting psychological, physical, and cultural scars on the Ukrainian people. Survivors endured deep trauma, fear, nightmares, depression, and anxiety that shaped their behavior and was passed on to future generations, creating a national sense of grief and mistrust. Malnutrition during the famine caused lifelong health problems for many, including weakened immune systems and chronic illnesses. And people born in affected regions were found to be more than twice as likely to develop type 2 diabetes in adulthood. The famine had a devastating demographic impact, with over 43.5% of the deceased being children, crippling the workforce and damaging Ukraine's economy for years. Ukrainian culture was further eroded by the Soviet policy of forced resettlement, which replaced starving Ukrainians with non-Ukrainians, diluting the cultural traditions and weakening national identity. The famine was deliberately used by Soviet regime to crush Ukrainian independence movements, leaving behind a deep-rooted distrust and centralized power that continues to influence Ukrainian politics. The Holodomor's long-term impact can still be seen today in Ukraine's collective memory, political values, and national identity. The trauma has become a defining part of Ukraine's historical narrative, fueling modern efforts to honor the victims and seek international recognition of the famine as genocide. Despite resistance from Russia, which continues to deny the intentional nature of the famine, the Holodomor remains a symbol of Ukrainian suffering, survival, and resilience.
In conclusion, between 1932 and 1933, the Soviet government imposed the Holodomor, a man-made famine that killed and starved approximately 4.5 million Ukrainians.
The Soviet regime caused mass starvation and trauma by confiscating grain, enforcing harsh laws, and restricting movement.
Psychological scars, cultural loss, and weakened nationalism shaped Ukraine's identity, fueling its eventual push for independence in 1991, and to some extent, contributing to the current conflict between the two countries.
Despite continued denial of the objective, as evidenced by only 30 countries recognizing the Holodomor, it remains a powerful symbol of Ukrainian struggle for freedom and historical justice.
A man-made famine. A man-made famine. A man-made famine. A man-made famine. USSR 1932. A man-made famine. Is it Stalin? Is it Khrushchev? Is it Pasteur? Is it Molotov? Was it Kagnovich? Is it Holodomor? Where's the grain at? Where did all the grain go? 5-year plan. Where did all the land go? The way I feel right now, I feel like we need to go steal some grain. But if we keep stealing around, the police will come and strip it away. That's real. Stop starving me. Yeah, what? Stop starving me. Those quotas are so unnecessary. I keep begging for food, but you're hurting me. A man-made famine. A man-made famine. A man-made famine. A man-made famine. Ooh, ooh. Is it Stalin? Is it Khrushchev? Is it Pasteur? Is it Molotov? Was it Kagnovich? Is the Holodomor? Where's the grain at? Where'd all the grain go? 5-year plan. Where'd all the land go? Holodomor.